Hello, gamers. Welcome back to the game shop's basement, where the grumpy old GMs like me work on things like the LOFT project and the GM Academy. So today we've got 3 videos lined up for you. One of them does hit LOFT, one of them hits GM Academy, so let's rock and roll. Okay, so for LOFT, we are hitting up the 3rd of the original 4 character classes, the ones that you can get for free. In the doobly-doo down below, there is a link to Necrotic Gnome's free PDF of their Old School Essentials Basics. Now, Old School Essentials Basics is only going to cover Fighter, Cleric, Magic User, and Thief, but hey, it's free, and so you can get a chance to check things out to see if you like it before you spend money. So that would mean, we've already done the Cleric and the Fighter, today's the Magic User, that means tomorrow is the Thief. So after tomorrow and after the Thief, we're going to be doing other classes. So yes, there are plenty of classes and player character species yet to come. Alright, so let's talk about the Magic User today. The Magic User is the premier arcane caster of this type of game. For those of you who are new, in most game worlds, different magic systems can be designed with different levels of complexity or different levels of what the designers think is coolness. In most systems, there's at least the division between arcane and divine. So we talked about the premier divine caster a couple videos ago, actually. That was the cleric. And divine magic, if you're new, is magic that is channeled from some higher power or some lower source. Whereas arcane magic, that is the magic that mortals use for themselves, that don't necessarily come from the gods, the higher powers, the demons, or what have you. Divine magic is, although there is some overlap, divine magic is generally more towards healing and support, although, hey, a cleric of war with blade barrier and flame strike is nothing to sneeze at. Magic User magic is more for blasting the crap out of things, enchanting things with invisibility, teleporting around, stuff like that. So divine magic is often for healing and support, and arcane magic is often for attack and utility, although there are exceptions. So magic users tend to be physically weak, especially at first. I was watching one of my favorite D&D YouTubers last night, Joe the Lawyer, and he put it very, very well. He was talking about the difference between old school style games and newer versions of our favorite game. And I'm just going to steal with his phrasing because he phrased it beautifully, and I can tend to ramble sometimes, as those of you who listen to the channel may have noticed a little bit. But, he said in terms of the modern video game influenced attitude of what we call optimizing, and, to be fair, all the way back to the 80s, there were people that we called min-maxers. That's what we called them back then, but, today it's optimizers or whatever. How can I break this? Well, the thing is, the only characters in an old school game, according to Joe the Lawyer, and I'm just stealing his phrasing because I think it's good, are the warriors. And by warriors, we mean fighters, paladins, rangers, barbarians, people like that. The monk once they get going. So these, a mage is probably never going to be optimized for combat, or magic user. So the in the thief or the rogue, depending on what you like to call them, they're really not optimized for combat. And the way that Joe the Lawyer put it, I'm going to steal his phrasing because it's just better than mine and quicker, and I tend to ramble. But he said an old school game is more about exploration and encountering things than necessarily building some kind of unstoppable video game build. So now, that being said though, what tends to happen in these games, if they're played long term, is a magic user can feel kind of like at low levels like they're being carried by the party, because they are. Although the party still needs that magic user, because at low levels when the party is running out of hit points and running out of healing, We're going to talk in another video today about resource management. But when the party's running out of resources and they get thrown one more mob than what they can really handle, it is time for that mage to toss their sleep spell. In recent weeks, as I've been running Old School Essentials Adventures, people who've come to the game from 5e, they have noticed that the sleep spell is really powerful at low levels. Yes, it is. It is the sleep spells have basically they can TPK low level groups of low level mobs. I mean, not TPK your party. I mean TPK their party, the party of the enemy. They all fall asleep, and then the party moves forward and coup de grace them. But the mage or the magic user only has maybe a couple of these sleeps per day, sleep spells. And so the resources have to be managed. But I'm getting ahead of myself in the resource management video. So we're talking about the magic user. So our video today, you may notice, those of you who are observant or nitpicky or whatever, sometimes observant is nitpicky, that the guy has like 6 fingers on a hand or whatever. I just went with it because that makes him seem all more mysterious and eldritch and arcane. But yeah, so the magic user, it's what it sounds like. The thing is, at low levels, yeah, they do kind of feel like they're being carried. But at high levels, I remember the 80s and 90s, and people would complain. So the balance was that magic users start out at low levels feeling like they're being carried by the party, and then at high levels, the fighters would be like, man, I wish I was like a magic user. Because at high levels, magic users are walking around kind of feel like demigods. So you start out feeling like you're being carried by the party. You end up feeling like, I am beyond mere mortals. I am an archmage. Now the thing is, we also noticed when we were playing back then, though, that a fighter could kind of compensate for this by having the right set of magic items. And one thing that anyway, I'm getting too much into game theory. We're supposed to be talking about the magic user. There's other videos to talk about other things. Can't talk about everything all at once in the same day on the same video. But magic users, they're a thing. I don't think they take too much explanation. But I did want to mention some of the differences that people might find between, like, say, a modern 5e magic user and a traditional old school magic user. For one thing, cantrips do not do damage in old school, and there are no infinite cantrips. You're not going to be firebolting and firebolting and firebolting and firebolting and firebolting and firebolting and firebolting. There are going to be cantrips in the game. I was actually asked yesterday by several people about spell acquisition. So the spells in the Old School Essentials core books, those are the books that spellcasters, including the clerics from a couple days ago, and the druids and people that are yet in character classes that are yet to come, those are the spells that are commonly in circulation. Those are the spells that, if you get a spell for leveling, that's the list you'd pick from. There are more spells, though. For instance, we're including all the spells from 1E, but you'd have to go find those, like from an enemy spellbook. Destroy the enemy and take their spellbooks, copy them down, or from a scroll in an ancient treasure hoard, or get a teacher, pay a teacher to teach it to you, or get it from another player character in your guild, have guilds start swapping spells, or find it in the story. So that's kind of how spell acquisition is set up here. You do get a spell for leveling. Basically the idea is that around the campfire at night, you have that epiphany. In a really old style of play, players would have to go find trainers, and they would have to find trainers for everything. So if you were a magic user and you were way out in the wilderness, like 150 miles from a town or a teacher, and you leveled and you got to a new column of spells I can cast. Hey, I can cast spells of the third column now. But you didn't have anybody to teach you one. You'd still be wandering around with, I got my first column spells, I got my sleep and my light and charm person, I got my second level spells, I got my web and my invisibility and my mirror image. But what about my third ones? No fireball, no lightning bolt, because I can't get back to town and find a teacher. Well, that's kind of stupid. So you do get one spell every time you level that you have figured out on your own from the common spells in the old school essentials, core books. There are more spells, though. I mean, there's a rich diversity of many, many spells. And you can get those spells in the story through play. So including cantrips. Cantrips will exist. The standard thing from the old days in 1E was that one cantrip or one first level spell column slot could take the place of 4 cantrips. So instead of your magic missile, you could stick 4 cantrips in your memorization slots. Or instead of charm person, or instead of sleep, instead of one first level spell, you could stick in 4 cantrips. Most people, for the most part, ignored cantrips. There were a few that people got really kind of creative with. And then what do I mean by columns? Okay, so, because I know it can be kind of confusing. So this is something I got from Ron Watson's group when I was a kid. It works really, really great. I'm going to kind of explain it now. It is a way to talk meta, but also talk in character about the magic system. So in your, player's handbook, OSE player's tome, whatever edition of this game you like to play, there is the spell progression is listed in columns. And so if 2 magic users are talking in universe, can you cast of the 4th column yet? Well, the thing is, it makes columns sound like they're these mystical, esoteric, metaphysical concepts, magic of the 4th column. One day I'll cast magic of the 5th column, and so on. But really, you're actually literally talking about columns that are in the rule book in a very meta way. But and another thing that this cures is that it has been very confusing in every edition of this game to new people, all the way back. I've been there through every edition. It has always confused new people that there are levels of spells that don't match the level of the character. So a 5th level magic user the most powerful thing they can throw is like Fireball, which is a 3rd level spell. Huh? I'm a 5th level magic user, but I threw only 3rd level spells. That has always confused new people. Now, it hasn't always confused everyone, but it has been confusing to a great many people in every edition, every version of our favorite game. So what I do is I consistently talk about spell levels, and if you were here, you'd see me make air quotes around that, as columns. I refer to spell difficulty level as columns and character levels as levels. And this cures that problem a lot. Like, it really, I've seen it help so many people over the years. If they were to get confused about that particular idea that spell levels and character levels don't exactly match up. So that's kind of an overview of the magic user. If you have any questions, just get a hold of me. I know y'all aren't shy. Because you are. You can hear the little boop boop on my Discord right now in the background. Yeah, people are asking me stuff about Loft right now. So I'm going to finish up this video, get it processing in my machine. I'm going to answer that person's question real quick, and then I'm going to go run because I'm going to need plenty of fitness and energy to keep up with all the DMing that I'm going to be doing soon, because I already DM a ton, and I'm going to be DMing a ton more and training other DMs soon. And yes, I'll be doing a lot of sitting, possibly a lot of soda drinking, and yeah, DM needs to exercise. A fit DM is a good DM, a happy DM, and you want a good happy DM. You don't want a DM who's grouchy and mean, because then they get evil. All right, so anyway, I will wrap this up here. We are, oh my goodness, 14 minutes, but magic users deserve it. So 14 minutes and going. I'll be back for a couple more videos today. In the meantime, I'll see you around the gaming table.